What was the most NSFW event you ever stumbled upon in high school? I went to a boarding school my freshman year of high school, and a few weeks in, I volunteered to help walk our librarian's dog for her while her leg was healing after an injury. So I was walking this huge dog through the woods around campus when he suddenly sniffed the air and just ripped the leash out of my hands and took off into the underbrush. I started chasing after him when I heard screaming and yelling. I thought, oh god, this dog mauled someone and I'm going to get expelled. Broke through a clearing and there were 5 half-naked upperclassmen trying to put their clothes on and scatter while this dog is joyously barking and jumping up on them, licking them. TLDR, accidentally interrupted an orgy in the woods with my librarian's dog. Story 2. Walked into a bathroom after school and found a guy and a girl about to go to town. She had her shirt off and skirt up. He had his pants on. I caught them just before the moment of insertion. I said nothing. I would have let them do it, except all other bathrooms on campus except this one were always locked shortly before last bell. So I silently walked to a urinal, calmly did my business, properly washed my hands. By the time I went to leave, the girl was hiding in a stall and the guy was waiting by the door. I shrugged at the guy shrugged back. I left and heard the door lock behind me. Not one of us said anything or made a sound during the entire exchange. See, I don't know why, but there's kind of a beauty to this. It seems like everyone kind of understood the mission. Everyone was on board without having to say much. They're like, yeah, this interaction's kind of weird, but, we kind of all acknowledge each other. And yeah, no words had to be exchanged, this was probably the best outcome. Story 3. I ran cross country in high school. Sometimes during practice, we would run through trails in the woods surrounding the high school. One day, right after school ended, we started running down the trails and stumbled upon 2 students doing the deed. Judging by their interactions, I don't think they were expecting a group of 15 guys to run by while they were getting it on. Story 4. In band before a football game, I walk into the percussion room to hang with the homies. Everyone is huddled around this dude in the corner of the room laughing. So of course I walk over to check it out. Turns out the dude was showing everyone how tiny his chicken is and everyone was so fascinated. Yeah, it was really, really small. From the tip of your pinky to the first knuckle down. I've never seen anything like it. I like how small and big chickens get the same amount of attention. One's probably better than the other. But think about that, if you have a very small pecker, you're still in a very, very special percentile. Just as much as the big pecker. Story 5. I went to a small party at my friend's house. My girlfriend and I got there late. We went in and noticed nobody was in the living room. Weird. They said they'd be here. Started walking to the back and I could just hear several voices in the bedroom. I just opened the door and there were 7 of my friends just doing it casually. Story 6. Freshman year of high school. Football team is out practicing. A senior varsity player came into the freshman locker room. Cut all the locks off our lockers and stole our clothes. Nice enough to take wallets and phones etc. out of pockets and leave them in the lockers though. Idiot didn't realize that the hallway cameras had him the whole time. Most of us chose not to shower until we got home and as a team proceeded to leave in groups in undershirts and boxers or no shirts and boxers after getting a call our rides were here. Small town, small school, so ultimately he was just benched for a few games, suspended for a day or 2 and his parents had to buy a bunch of padlocks. Story 7. Fresh white stuff on a locker room bench. A kid pulled his pants down in Spanish class and peed in the corner. A kid with a mental handicap who would vigorously do the deed in AP Political Science at least once a week. Edit. One day in AP Political Science, the kid with Asperger's sat alone in a row of empty chairs all closely placed together directly in front of the teacher. In the middle of class, he reclined across 4 adjacent seats and went to work in his pants. At my angle, I could see everything. The tent, his forearm positioning up and down, the veins in his neck. He stuck out his tongue and curled his toes, taunting us like that for 5, maybe 10 seconds before the teacher shouted at him. This kid did weird crap, but he was in a number of my AP classes and, I think, legitimately earned his way. He carried our team's butt in AP Brit Lit junior year during class Jeopardy games. And way too many of us shared this peeing Spanish class experience for us to be in the same class. What's going on here? Yeah, I was going to say too, I feel like there's way too many, I don't know if I can say orgy, so I'm just going to say group intercourses going on. But why is that so normal in school? I literally only read 7 stories and 3 of them were about that. What's going on, guys? Story 8. We had a kid that would strip down naked and dry hump girls. They let it happen until he bit someone hard enough to get stitches. So they built a big fence around the special education unit so that he couldn't get out. Problem was the special education unit was along the main road, so cars would drive by and see the naked special ed kid in what was practically a giant dog run. To stop everyone from seeing him naked, they covered the fence with black shade cloth so you couldn't see in. Story 9. Oh man, I've got a good one for this. So I'm in high school theater class and have been helping the teacher out with a lot of tasks like setting up the green room and stuff. Just little helpful stuff. Well, apparently one of us left the door unlocked and unattended for a little too long. In our green room were 2 big blue couches that were the most uncomfortable things I have ever sat on. Teacher comes running into the room from the hall and says, "Suddenly tequila. I think someone is in the green room. Go with me so I can have a witness." By the way, the guy's Reddit name is Suddenly Tequila. Thinking nothing of it, I go. We stand by the door and someone is most definitely in there, making some pretty unusual sounds. I realize what the sound is a half a second before the teacher throws the door open to 2 kids from my class getting down on that couch. I only had like 2 seconds of view time before the teacher screams, "Good morning, Miss Molly," and knocked on the door to let me out. Realizing we had the stage completely locked down, the look on their faces when the principal let them out and led them to his office will forever be in my mind. Can you imagine? Balls deep about to blow, and from over his shoulder, "Good golly, Miss Molly." I dream of it sometimes and still wake up laughing. Story 10. We had many PCs in our school, and every computer room had a projector. So once, when the teacher was ill and had no replacement came, we were in that room. Someone started the projector and quickly found out that every P site he tried is blacklisted, but playing from the USB apparently works fine. We later found out not only are the connections whitelisted, but also fully monitored. Not long after the movie show with sound and everything started, the IT tech guy comes with a substitute teacher. The internet search history was apparently enough for them to suddenly have a sub teacher for us. Story 11. When I was in middle school, someone played with a chicken and finished on his desk in the middle of class. The story is legend in our area, and it's been retold so many times that it's hard to figure out what actually happened after he finished. So I'll give you each ending I've heard from different people. Number 1, he finished and is shot across his desk onto the girl's hair in front of him. Number 2, the teacher heard something happening, went over and saw it on the desk and put her finger in it. Number 3, he just splooged over himself and got kicked out of class. He got suspended and a few years later got caught peeing outside and put on the offenders list. The guy is really funny and pretty chill now. He has a lot of stories about him, and they're all amazing. How is this guy chill now? Like, there's nothing chill about the activities he's done. How can you go from that to now being the cool chill guy? It doesn't work like that. Story 12. Walked over to the local church where my buddy and resident school 10 out of 10 were last seen. I started using a small flashlight because it was dark as F, and I heard rustling near some pine trees. I heard whispering, and being sober just flat out yelled, "If you two are effing, just let me know so I can turn around." Yeah, we are, but... My buddy Sean walks out, shirt covering his chicken. "Can you go find me a condom, dude?" I walked back to the house, found a condom in my buddy's room, took it back, and laid it down where I got to see the 10 out of 10 naked. Thanks, bro. 11th grade, everyone. Story 13. This is my most vivid high school memory. It was the biggest poop I've ever seen. Just one huge log, to my memory the size of the toilet bowl. It definitely didn't fit down the hole, and it had to be removed by a janitor. Everyone told their friends about it, and one by one we all went and checked it out. Also no toilet paper in the bowl. All that was there was the big, fat, legendary turd. It physically hurts me to think about how that came out someone's you-know-what. Jesus, why'd everyone go check it out? If someone told me, like, "Hey, you have to see this in the toilet," I'm like, "No, I'm not going anywhere, sir." Or ma'am. Story 14. This is NSFW in a different way than most of the stories here, but when I was in high school, I liked to go to the balcony of our theater to take naps during my free periods. It was dark, quiet, and usually empty, which made it such an ideal spot for napping. One day I walk up the stairs to see a girl from the grade below me that I sort of knew cutting herself with scissors. She freaked out and ran away. I eventually caught up with her, and we had an intense conversation. We became friends after that day, and I encouraged her to start seeing a therapist, which helped her a lot. Unfortunately, we lost touch when her parents moved to a different state and sent her to some boarding school. Story 15. This was in the 90s. 2 people were caught doing the deed behind the curtain on the gym stage by the master of custodial arts. He said hi to both and walked out. Dave was cool. A junior boy filmed 2 sophomore girls having intercourse, and of course, he made copies and passed them around. One copy landed in the dean's hands, and she called both girls and their parents in and effing watched it. There were definitely girls snorting cokes in the bathroom. Teachers choking out and punching kids, you know, the usual. Wait, I'm gonna have to call Cap on this. Like, definitely with the second story when you said they came in and watched it. Isn't that illegal? Like, I'm pretty sure that's just like insanely illegal. Story 16. When I was in elementary school, I was getting my little sister's homework because she went home sick and I walked into her teacher's classroom. She was sitting there with my gym teacher all giggly. They ended up getting married, having a family, and the gym teacher is now the principal of the high school. He's a great guy. I told him about that day I walked into the last class and he had a big laugh. I've been out of school since 2013, but him and I still keep in touch. Story 17. Oh god, I've been waiting to tell this story for so long. This was last year. I was a freshman, but there were a few sophomores in my English class. We were doing argumentative essays this week, and we're in the computer lab researching our topics. A few students were down the hall in the library because there weren't enough computers in the computer lab, and so she went to give them the same instructions she had just given us. Not long after she left the room, I smelled something odd. At first, I thought she was just heating up her lunch a bit early, but then I remembered there's no microwave in the computer lab. So I turned to my friend beside me to ask her if she smelled it as well. As I turned to the left, I saw one of the sophomore girls with her pants completely removed. I was very taken aback by this, but even more so when I saw that there was a computer mouse halfway in her V. I just sat there, completely frozen. My friend noticed this and went to see what I was looking at. She said something and everyone else turned around to see the sight. Some people jumped out of their seats, making jokes and stuff. At this point, the teacher walks back in and asks why people are out of their seats. And then when she sees why, she screams and the girl leans forward to grab her pants. I had not yet removed the mouse. The pressure applied broke the cheap mouse inside her V. The nurse was called over there. I had to call an ambulance and take her to the hospital. Story 18. My high school had a lock-in every year, where you basically stayed at the high school and were allowed to leave from like 6 p.m. to midnight. They were usually pretty boring and stupid as crap, because students had to bring their own consoles and could only bring E-rated games and PG-rated movies. Anyways, there was an upstairs to my school, but it was only 2 rooms. One of them was locked and the other movies were playing in. I was watching movies upstairs, and when I went to use the bathroom up there, I opened the door to a full-on, basically people doing intercourse with each other. I mean, like 8 kids, and it wasn't even that big of a bathroom. I don't understand why they wouldn't lock the door. I really wish they did, so I didn't see that. I then went downstairs to the locker room, where a bunch of kids, this was the boys' locker room, but there was like 10 guys and 10 girls, were playing truth or dare. I was a really shy and unpopular kid, so crap like that was weird for me. One of the girls saw me come in and dared another girl to blow me in front of them. I got really embarrassed and ran out of there as fast as I could. By that time it was only like 10, so I talked to the person running it and told them that I threw up, and they let me leave. I never went to another one of those stupid things after that. Story 19. There was a kid. We'll call him CB. He was notoriously a bad kid, always in fights, getting kicked out of school, etc. Anyways, his locker wasn't next to mine, but it was really close. He and I never had problems because I purposefully avoided him. One day another kid, we'll call AC, and CB got into an argument. It led to a pushing and shoving match and some crap talking, but got separated really quickly. The next day, AC was walking past our lockers, and CB pulled a literal crowbar out of his locker. Ran up behind AC and hit him in the back of the head so hard that blood hit me in the face. Part of AC's scalp literally half folded over the back of his head as he was on the floor. CB started hitting me in the back of the head with it. Other students jumped on him and held him down. An ambulance took AC to the hospital. His skull was fractured and he had broken ribs. I had to get checked out because of the blood exposure. No idea where CB went, but I never saw him again. Story 20. We always threw house parties at my friend's house. One day I went to grab my jacket from one of the rooms, and I heard some moaning and groaning, so I thought it was just a couple hooking up. I flipped the lights on because I couldn't find my jacket, and saw that 3 of the track girls were butt naked, finger loving, and eating one another out. Instead of just standing there and watching or trying to participate, my nerdy high school self said hi, waved, and said have fun, as I walked out giving them privacy. Later on that year, I ended up dating one of the girls and would always try to mention it and maybe try to get a threesome going. Never happened though. She said it was just a drunk moment. Story 21. Not me, but a friend of mine who was a yearbook photographer. She was a rail thin, awkward, geeky high schooler and was asked to photograph a day in the life of the swim team. Our school had the football fever, and so other sports were always trying to get more than a few mentions in the yearbook packed with dozens of football shots. So my friend showed up to the swim team practice and later state tournament. She was asked to join them at their victory party, which was at someone's house with its own pool and hot tub. When she got there, most of the team was already drunk, and not an adult in sight. There were also a lot of girlfriends of the team there, and more than once, my friend was asked to join them naked in the hot tub. Sex was pretty freely flowing, and she strived constantly to get acceptable photos instead of the wanton depravity around her. At one point, some naked girl was chugging while she was in the cowboy position, screwing on top of her boyfriend while everyone cheered her on. They kept begging my friend to take photos, and she refused in horrified shock. Some of the guys got really handsy with her until finally she picked a time when they were distracted and she left. She later was crying to her best friend because she felt so stressed out, and it was nothing like she expected. Sort of like showing a 10-year-old Caligula when they were expecting Toy Story 2. Only one photo made it to the yearbook from that party. A hot tub photo where she had to crop out the beer keg and everyone's body was below the waterline so you couldn't tell they were naked. Story 22. A bunch of guys from the athletics class got mad at a kid from mine for cheating during dodgeball. So they walked into the locker room, effing naked, and whipped him with towels. I just walk in and see someone's dong flopping around like a corrupted body part in a PS1 game before he leaps off the bench and goes ape crap on the guy. I noped the F out and waited in the hallway with everyone else. Before anyone asked why didn't I or anyone else help, the coaches were nowhere to be found, and we were scrawny freshmen against football and wrestling players in good shape. The guy eventually comes out drenched in sweat, calls us a-holes, then kicked one of our backpacks. Story 23. In 11th grade English, the desks were in a U shape, so some students were facing each other from across the room. This is important later on. So I had a few girls in my class I thought were attractive, and there was this one girl who was a cheerleader. She sat directly across from me so I could see her face rather than the back of her head. So anyways, because I was able to see her face, I was also able to see the rest of the front of her body. So one day while my teacher was reading us a book, this girl was wearing a fairly short skirt. I happened to just glance and saw up. Being in the heat 16 to 17-year-old, I glanced here and there. Eventually she noticed, and you would think that when you notice someone looking, you'd close your legs. The opposite happened. I had been wearing athletic shorts as it was a hot April day, so this girl was spreading her legs whilst wearing a short skirt and a thong. She kept looking at me and kept spreading until she couldn't spread much further. I obviously had a little thing now down there, so I'm almost certain she must have seen, because she was biting her lip, and I swear to God, I could have sworn she moved her thong over just enough to show Now keep in mind, there was maybe 10 people in that class, including me, and the side I was on had 5 or so of us, and it was just a majority of girls with the exception of me and a gay guy, so she was definitely showing me. Being awkward as hell though, I never bothered to talk to her much or anything, so I never got any chance to ask her out or anything, but that was probably the hottest thing I've ever seen in high school. Story 24. In English class, 10th grade, I was sitting next to this dude. For storytelling purposes, his name is Chad. Chad was always a little weird, and never really paid attention in class. He preferred to go on gag websites like Google Gravity and whatnot for the entirety of class, occasionally talking to me and showing off what weird crap he found. That was all good. Then one day I looked over just out of curiosity for what weird crap he might have found that day. First thing I saw was that his screen was going through the standard Windows update/reboot screen. Then I saw his desk bouncing up and down somewhat. I just figured he was bouncing his legs with some ADHD type energy while he was waiting for his computer to finish updating. So I go back to my work. A few minutes later, he apparently started making sounds. I was unaware of this as I was watching YouTube. These sounds were heard by the group of talkative girls sitting a couple seats over. They loudly complained a lot to the teacher, so the teacher walked over and tried talking to Chad. When Chad saw the teacher walking over, he went into panic mode and tried to stealthily hide what he was doing. Naturally, he fell spectacularly and sent his desk forward and actually helped it fall on accident when he tried to save it. So Chad was sitting in his seat, one hand trying to pull his desk back up while the other was desperately grasping the zipper region of his pants. I only learned what happened after the fact, as I have a spectacular ability to ignore what's going on around me when I watch YouTube. However, I found out that he got suspended for a week. However, Chad went down as a legend around my school as the man who rubbed one out during English. He was highly respected among all the boys in school for the next 2 years, and his reputation spread to the surrounding schools that when I went to sporting events, the opposing teams would ask me about him. Alright, why is this guy making it sound like this guy got like a good reputation from this though? Like, God, people are so like unpredictable. Like I feel like in my school you'd be seen as a creep, but they're like, yeah, Chad, Chad is the man. Do you think they just like ask him to like do it? Like, you know that one party trick, someone does it and they always ask you to keep doing it? They're like, oh, do it with the voice or whatever. That's probably what they ask him. Anytime they're around Chad, they're like, Chad, do it again. Do your superpower. It's like, guys, it was only one time. It was an accident. No, do it again, Chad. Story 25. There was this not accessible to regular students hallway that connected the band room to the theater. And someone took a massive crap and smeared it all over the carpet into a giant swastika on the ground. This happened when I was a freshman, and no lie, the stains of the carpet weren't completely gone until my senior year. Me and a couple other of the theater kids discovered it the day it happened, and the smell was horrendous. More so than your regular crap smelled. And to this day, no one knows who did it. Alright, here's the real question. Why did they keep the carpet? Why not just get rid of the carpet? You're telling me the carpet was worth keeping at that point? Story 26. This only happened once, which made me think it was some kind of pervo scam. All the girls in my high school were told they were going to get a breast exam during their PE class. In the locker room, we were told to strip down to our bras and underwear and line up in front of this old doctor. There was no attending nurse, nor a lesson how to self-check for lumps. Just this very sweaty, red-faced man who one by one reached under our bra cups and copped a feel of, yeah. He grabbed and squeezed like tooting a bike horn. And that was it. That was our exam. Jesus Christ. You're telling me no one reported this? No parents heard that? Oh my god. School system, I swear to God sometimes. Story 27. So, here I was running late to my AP exam. Like almost everyone was already in the testing area. We have like 4 minutes until they probably lock us out. I'm talking to my girlfriend, and all of a sudden, I notice a girl get real frisky with this guy. They're kind of tucked away in a corner, but it's not particularly secure. They make out for a minute. He does a little finger action. She gives him a good suck. But then the guy's like, crap, I'm gonna miss my exam. And so he disengages and proceeds to get a 4 on the exam he should have failed. Senior year was wild. Somebody definitely saw that. Story 28. This happened about a month ago. 2 kids were caught doing the deed in our band practice rooms. It wouldn't have been a big deal if they chose the empty ones. But they chose to do the devil's tango in the one with a couch. They left a small stain on it. It so happens I ended up sitting in that chair before I found out about the whole ordeal. My disgust was immeasurable. Yeah, dude, you should probably get checked out too. I wouldn't risk it. I know, like, some people may argue like, oh, contact, no, don't risk it. If it's bad kids, you have to be extreme about it. This is not me making up anything either. The CDC literally specifically states if it's a bad kid that the diseases are 10 times more potent.